Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty companions, to the celebration of holiness. The celebration of all that is actually here, infinite love. Until a little idea arises of a me and mine. The tiny idea that something's wrong, that something's not perfect exactly the way it is. And then it sticks like glue, like Velcro, because it's chosen to keep it very dear, an idea about something happening in form. Something that says no to infinite right now. The choice to deny infinite. That's just a play. To keep words and hold them so dear, and to pretend that words can define us. In the divine light of infinite being, can a word define infinite light? Does a cloud pass by and give the sky a little lecture about how to be a sky? That's what happens every time we take a little thought cluster and say that's me. It's like the clouds dictating to the sky what it is. Here, take notes. The cloud going by the sky. Okay, take notes. Let me tell you how it is. Now we laugh at that because it seems really ridiculous, but you can ask Jesus, is the same level of insanity of having a cloud tell the sky what it is for me to believe that the words, all the thoughts about myself are true. Which one's more insane? At least the cloud's not talking to as far as we know. It's not trying to pretend to the sky. And then it tells the sky a story about itself, of what it is. It just is. It just floats by. But it doesn't define the sky, never makes the mistake of going, geez, that's just an ugly looking cloud there. I must have done something wrong because there's a cloud. Yet we would do the same thing. Infinite sky, saying, oh, those clouds, that must mean something's wrong with me. Ask Jesus, is that the same? Am I like doing that same thing? Looking at clouds and going, He says it's all clouds. How can the light be touched? In the light of divine being, infinite light, how can it be touched by thought? Our only function is to see that it really can't be. Yet we would hold on so tightly to this world. I can see it. Jesus was talking about how much consciousness loves playing turtle. Pulling its little flippers in and tucking its head under so it can be safe in a shell. Like the safety, all the safety lies in pulling our little pads in, our head in, and just going, I can't deal with this whole world. I don't want to deal with this world anymore. That very pullback and contraction is what actually keeps the world in play, the suffering in play. Rather than saying, Jesus, show me, I'm going to step out and see. Let me just step out here for a moment and see if I'm being impacted by a single thought. Oh, no. I can't go out there into that world out there. Oh, bad stuff's going to happen. That's what keeps it in play. You can ask him. Jesus is not stepping out. Is that the very thing that keeps the ego in play? See, building the little fiefdom inside of a house, like our little fiefdom of safety with our little safe chair and our little safe recliner that goes back. And then we just, you know, if no one comes in this house and I have my nice little retirement plan, I'll be okay. And not even seeing how desperately, the desperate level of unhappiness that runs under that. We don't see it. You can ask Jesus, Jesus, do I even realize how unhappy I've made myself? Consciousness has been very successful up until a point, thankfully not totally successful, but very convincingly successful in making itself seem teeny tiny. In the world, big old gonna get me thing. But notice how it's always undefined. It's always the they, them, those, sometime at a future date, something we need to buy insurance for sure. Like we wouldn't trust God's insurance plan, which is 100% insured, 100%. Where do you get insurance? It's 100%. You can't buy a phone and have it last, have a 90-day guarantee on a $500 phone. God's going, you're a guarantee. Identity is the only guarantee. Like that's it. But we like want to preserve things like how long our phone lasts. I'm going to build that house, you know, the 3 little piggies, and I'm going to build a little stone house so the wolf can't blow it over. God's saying, why don't you see what your true insurance plan is? It costs nothing, no money whatsoever. And you carry that insurance plan everywhere you go. Let's see. It's like we can't step out into our car without looking both ways and waiting for somebody to jump us. That's the play. Have you ever like just walked down a street, like just walked infinite? Infinite happiness. Seemingly walking down a street in the world, but not of the world. What a thought. Carefree. We have no, you can ask Jesus, Jesus, I have no clue what supreme happiness is, do I? It's like you have to admit that almost first. because it's so buried. What happiness is buried deep. And so you'll get little tiny glimpses of it, but this is how quick that thought-based desire to deny divinity moves in like a lightning bolt. So fast, it becomes almost a concept. And what it does, it likes to have, it has a little staple gun in there. So as soon as the experience of happiness is there, it hunts around for a reason why. It's because, well, we talked about a cookie. It's because of this cookie I'm happy. It's because my spouse told me she loved me today. See how the ego staples of because on it. Pink. So that it never seems like no reason whatsoever. Doesn't even seem like a possibility. Like happiness for no reason. Yet without following the Holy Spirit, so Jesus like takes us right into that direct experience and uncouples. Because the ego will fight to keep certain behaviors and certain hobbies, the ego hobbies, which are really body jobs. I realized that after a while. You might have seen that after doing the course. I was asking myself, why am I doing all these things? You can start to see how you're kind of on this automatic, the play in consciousness of just automatic, do it because you always did it. That's ego land. Death land. You can ask Jesus, is that death land, Jesus? Is that desire for death? It's reflexive. It's like one big reflex. Okay, and I come home and I pour my cup of tea, and then, you see, it has and thens. So all the comfort of the world is in the next thing, is all the planning to give comfort. And ask Jesus, Jesus, is that comfort or death? So without the Holy Spirit and really following to just break that pattern, the death pattern, the dead pattern of doing the same thing for comfort. See, the ego tricks us into thinking, we tricked ourselves into believing that brings comfort. The desire to control time and space. Ask Jesus, Jesus, do I have a desire to try and control time and space? That's the whole play in consciousness. I mean, it blows out time and space, and then it tries to pretend like it can control it. That's why he says, I will control time and space for you. We have to do a check-in. Let's see how well we've done so far with controlling time and space. You just start looking at that and you see you can't breathe in that. You can't, there's no life in it. Just start to notice, because we're so convinced that there's actually life in death. Jesus, is there a desire below my level of awareness to actually flip what life is in death? And when he says yes, and you'd let that ring, that's the freedom bell ringing right there. Okay. I flipped like, can you show me how that works exactly? Because see, the ship can't flip back up as long as we're suppressing the desire to keep the ship upside down. So as long as consciousness is playing to hold down the ship upside down in the water and pretending that's right side up, pretending that's really great and wonderful, and doesn't want to look directly to see that doesn't work, then it's just a heap of death. And Renee and I had a really beautiful joining today looking. what sounded like, and then the ego makes it all okay. See, it's going to put it's a little muffler. It has like a little muffler. You see, you're screaming bloody murder at the top of your lungs because you're in hell. And here comes the ego's devices. You're going to put a little muffler on that. I'm asking Jesus. No. All right, I'll say it. It's really like putting a muffler on a gun, you're shooting yourself in the quad. It's mighty, you don't hear the sound, That's the way it seems really subtle that you start to see, wait a minute. The tiniest little twitch carries all of hell with it. And we've become, like he says, so desensitized to the twitches. And the feet are paddling and running so hard from just looking. We can't even tell. Like the deeper we go with Jesus in the mind, we see it. It's like, wait a minute. The ego will rise up and go, well, it's not that bad. As soon as you hear that voice run as fast as you can. That is like, that has to go in the Jesus translation book. Okay, let's put that one. We're going to have do the translation, the Jesus translation book, Here's what the ego says, not that bad. And then you just put fires of hell.
Could be worse.
Yeah, could be worse. Yeah. The comparatives. And we make it okay. And this is exactly, so here comes the incoming prompt for supreme happiness. And then we, no to Jesus. Jesus, see, every moment he's just giving us the gate. He's going, here it is. Look, just step through. He's going, he's got lights on the runway. He's lighting it up. And some beings are saying, I feel the tractor beam. See, here, here's an example that I saw. So Muji would talk about, he says, okay, now if I said to you, you're at the top of a burning building, and the only way you're getting out, there's one elevator, and the only one that gets to go down the elevator is the one who's awake. How fast would you wake up, right? You would waste no time. Okay. No one goes down unless here's the burning building. Okay. So this is what I realized. Here's what you say. Oh, I'm awake. Look at this. This is the light. You get on the elevator about 4 floors down. You go, and the fire really hasn't reached this floor yet. So I'm going to take a little stroll on floor number 10 because the fire hasn't burned up. And that is, you can ask Jesus, is that exactly what happens? Oh, I'm awake. I'm going to be awake. And you get down. I'll just take a little step because it's not that bad. Look, there's a little bit of smoke. There's a bit of flames, but they're still down the hall. That's how the ego's plan works. You start seeing it. Oh, I'm going to wake. Oh, I'm just committed. I'm so committed. The only way you find out that you're not committed is when you ask Jesus exactly where you're not committed. That is you can ask him. Jesus is the only way to find out where I'm really not committed is to ask you. Because that's what you'll see that's why he's going, when we go in the joining groups and you're in joining and he says, okay, and you ask him, that's why he has to be in control of the miracles. And you're asking him, and if you haven't had this experience, you will, if you keep joining with the Joining in Light worksheet with your brother, and you'll learn it together. You'll see it. And then you'll go, Jesus, am I ready for a miracle? And you hear, no. It's like, well, because he knows that you're still going to step off the elevator. He knows where down below you're not, there's no commitment to yourself yet, where you want to deny the miracle. He can't give you what you won't take. So when we work with him, he's going to show us, and you ask him, okay, so do I keep going and looking at this desire? And you'll hear him say this, I'll just describe my experience, but it's being reflected out in many of the beings that are doing these sessions. And you watch those videos, you can see how Jesus works. Am I right? No, just a little bit. Is there something else I need to see? With that willingness, then he leads you right into where, so you don't, it's innocence. It's all innocence. If you step off on the 8th floor, you are on 10, at least you jumped on the elevator, you got 2 floors down. But most beings are going, okay, I'm done. This looks really good up here. And the fire is raging. The fire below the level of awareness is raging. There's still a rabid dog in the backyard. So you have the experience here it's for me that this whole thing is, okay, Jesus, show me, and then will you take me all the way? And you just build that trust with him. So he really helps that eraser of the desire all the way down. And if it takes days, it takes days. I'm not saying, well, he'll tell you how long, then he'll say, have I done enough? And then trust him that as much has been seen as can be seen, and you'll feel it. Am I clear now? Yes. Your brother will feel it. You'll feel it together. Clear. Do we feel, or is there something else? And he'll tell you, and you'll hear it together. You can see it being reflected. When we're ready to go that far, that's commitment to yourself. Will you let the one who knows really guide that looking and not drifting off into what happened yesterday? And it's also excellent light training. It's light training to be so attentive to that voice only, because you'll see it. We've talked about it. The mind is, it's having a picnic next door. As soon as Jesus wants to show you the desire to usurp the power of God, your mind is taking a vacation off in the Bahamas. Yeah. Boy, that was the best beach I've ever seen. Not to look. And that's another reason why your brother's so helpful sitting there, because you're more attentive, and then down. And just focusing, he's reminding me, focus on just that one thing at a time and just go all the way down the elevator. Focus on the one thing, because again, that elevator analogy is a really good one, to just keep going. Do I get off on this floor? No, Jesus. Can I go another couple of floors with you, Jesus? He may tell you no, and that's enough for today. Now go, what do you want me to do? Just go and rest. Because the ego will get control of that and decide, okay, I think I can jump 4 more floors. That's how the ego plays. It wants to get involved. Ask Jesus, does the ego like being involved in spiritual awakening? You'll see. Favorite pastime. Ask Jesus, is the ego's favorite pastime to be involved in spiritual awakening? Oh, it relishes. Feel out and relishes. Oh, because then it can play spiritual awakening delay. Then the I know mind gets to come up and play like it knows how to wake itself up. And it's delay. It's really delay. The spiritual one, the one who knows, the one who recognizes divinity, the one who's light, that one play. I've seen the light. It's very subtle, but it's a sledgehammer. So really sticking to the what Jesus told me, and staying in the heart with just really staying with everything he's showing you. Okay, what next? What next? What next? And he will untrain that fear right out. You won't ever be afraid asking him something, having you show something. And you'll be so light trained at being with him. You'll just automatically go to the one who knows so quickly. And he says that in a course. When you join with me quickly, you won't feel fear. You can ask him again, Jesus, if I join with you quickly, can I experience fear? So light up the board, really. Find a buddy, he says, go through chapter 20. If you go through him with chapter 20, it just makes your clarity of hearing him will be clear. The relationship gets really clear. You'll be practicing speaking the voice. He's really been talking, made a little video today. Dyra did, it's really beautiful. We're going to put it out about being embarrassed to speak the voice. That's such a good one to spend with a mighty. Asking Jesus about, really right off the top. You're practicing your voice. You're practicing listening to your voice and speaking your voice. To wash out the idea that your voice goes out to another being to try to influence them, change them, make something different. That it's possible that these words that come out here influences someone. Ask Jesus, can the words coming out of my mouth influence anyone? In truth, in the light of divine being, can a single word I say influence someone? It's a play in consciousness. And you'll see that in chapter 20, because he talks about the desire to be more or less through teaching. All you can do is listen and learn for yourself. Listen, speak, and learn how to express this divine being, if that's possible, but apparently it is, because we're all here learning that with Jesus. And then you can be free and relaxed. The words that come out of your mouth are not for anyone. You can rest and know that he will give you what to say and where to go and who to talk to, and that he will tell you everything you need to know. And there's so much happiness. It's very sweet. It's sweet. It's comforting to hear that voice. That salvation of the world depends on it, actually. Speaking that voice, your salvation depends on it. Because you won't, I'm asking him, yeah. He says you won't learn the lessons well enough unless you speak them let me speak through you. Can't learn them. You'll be, holding back as though there's someone else out there. And just notice when you're in the world talking to different beings, how you might talk to one being one way and another being the other way, like how the ego plays, depending on what concept is in play in that moment. It's like you can have no consistency in that. It's very inconsistent. And even course teachers who tell me things like, well, I have to be really careful how I teach this because, certain beings can't get it. The minute you go there, you're in the play. Because it's your own belief. See, that's your belief coming out of your mouth that certain beings can't get it. There are no certain beings not to get it. So that's your belief about yourself. There's no one out there not to get it or to get it. You see how it plays? Anything we say about other is our belief about ourselves. Ask Jesus. Jesus, is any belief I say about someone else, is that the belief I truly believe about myself? See, he helps us speak without other. We speak as the one, infinite. It may look diverse. It's not like you get like Dyer and A today and I get on the phone and we start talking. Or when you're talking to your brother, it's a celebration of diversity within the one. So it's not like you're going to be a clone. That's the ego's, oh, I'm going to be a clone. I don't want to look like David Hoffmeister or whoever, Santa Claus. It doesn't matter. It's like you have to see that you are David Hoffmeister. No way to escape it. But he is a beautiful reflection of taking the course all the way to supreme happiness. And no twitches. David has no twitches. I saw one twitch all the time I was with him. I saw one twitch. I'm asking Jesus, is that, yeah, it doesn't matter. Because he's a reflection of a being within consciousness that's taken the reflection in my mind to go for it. And the invitation by Jesus within consciousness to go for it. The reflection of you're more powerful than you think you are, like Muji. I love that about Muji. It becomes inspiring to look. To be so inspired, we need those reflections of just pure go for it in consciousness. Go for it. You need not fear. And see that you can transcend it because you made it. Therefore, you can transcend it. Jesus, did I make fear? Is this a desired experience to experience fear? So therefore, Jesus, and ask him, he'll tell you, can I undo it? He says, you can see that it's impossible. Fear is impossible. In the light of divine being and honesty of God, is fear impossible? See that the light doesn't know what fear is. So fear is merely a play. And now that he's teaching us to go directly to desire, you can look with him at everything without a shred of fear. Ask him, Jesus, can I look at everything with you without a single shred of fear? Now that's a deal. Because if you read all the books about waking up and it's going to be terrible and it's going to be fearful and it's going to be all the things it's going to be. But remember, in the Course, Jesus says that it's not necessary. It happens for a lot. But if you work with him early on to look at, we're going to make a list. Here's the list of some really great things to ask Jesus to show you right up front. The desire for difficult awakening. Because as we talked about, that's a way to get specialness, to have some kind of earth-shattering awakening. Okay. Yeah, I got flung out into outer space and I saw the universe was all, it can happen. We don't judge it. All he's saying is, look and see that the light's here now. Do you need to get flung out into the universe to see that light, infinite light is here? It could happen. I don't know. He knows what's most helpful for everyone. But then the ego, see how that moves in? Done up, here it comes. Because someone else had a certain kind of awakening experience, and then you outpicture it. And that's a delay to see that the lights is the light here now. Infinite light. So it doesn't have to be the ego wants to make it. Just ask him, Jesus, do I need one of those experiences to see that I'm awake now? He'll tell you, not one. Not one single more experience do you need to see that you're infinite light now. That the holy instance here. But he knows. We can ask him, Jesus, yet I can see the lights here and all that stuff. Do I really want it to be me? And then hear the answer. And then you can just talk, have a conversation with them. Invite them, pull up a chair, fireside chat. Okay, obviously, this is something I need to talk to you about. But then it's like, see, you're innocent. And start speaking the words of God coming through. And don't care about what anybody says or worrying about, oh God, I'm talking about Jesus. I know I did for sure. I understand it. I really, as I've said, that wasn't on the list. But it goes right to the top when you see that it's when you speak those words, you carry the power of infinite. And so all of a sudden, boy, okay, this is all right. I get it now. It's divine expression. And then it's like, okay, you'll be jumping the joining because you'll see how fast you'll move through. He's given to move through what would take years and years to do by helping us uncover those desires and having him lead us right on down, boom, boom, to infinite. Amen to this, and like Alleluia chorus, to have this powerful set of mighties, and we can feel it. You can feel it in that group. He's just saying, really stay on focus with the joining. Really notice any kind of sideways moves, because the ego loves to co-opt this stuff. Ask them. Really stay focused on what the learnings are, what your Muji calls it marinating. I love that. It's so true. You just marinate in the discoveries. And then if there's something very specific and potent that he shows you, you ask him, do I share that? Is it helpful for me? Because it's not for anyone else, it's for ourselves. Like, okay, do I share that? Is that most helpful? And then go out to the joining in light or put a post somewhere. Here's what I thought. Here's what Jesus told me. If it helps it bloom, and then and just marinate. Because again, the ego will turn any experience into an object of, this happened to me and I saw that I was the light. That's just the play in consciousness to be an object. So just stick with the denial, the desire to deny with him for a while. Just stick with that. Okay, that's what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on his voice, looking at denials. And will save tremendous. He says it saves just so much time. You can ask him, because like I say, every single being here can hear him like a yes, like a bell. Jesus, is this most helpful for me to save time if my true desire is to recognize divinity? And to quickly see that every sentence in the Course is true by direct experience within myself. And to move past all the conceptual ideas about what awakening is and what it looks like and who's awake, just ignore all that stuff, and who's awake and not awake. He says you don't even need to give a thought to that. And that's helpful too when you ask him, Jesus, do I have to spend any mind time on this? And he tells you no, drop it. At first, you're not going to want to. I saw that. Hopefully, we love dancing with the devil. But you'll see it. It's all delay. It's just delay. We're going for the straight. Amen, Jesus. Take us all the way. All the way to supreme happiness, our only function. Amen.